Good morning, Brussels. So my name is Niels Engelen. I work as a global technologist at Veeam Software. I'm an engineer. I'm a technical guy, so I'm not a marketing person. Don't worry about that. My role in the company is also a public speaker, and I also like DevOps. I'm passionate about programming, scripting, and automation. So I have about 15 years of experience. My first experience was tearing down the washing machine from my parents at the age of 7. So engineer since forever. I create a lot of things for Veeam Software and other automation solutions within, of course, Amazon and additional tools. And a personal note, I like comic books, Spider-Man and Batman and so ever. I'll be joined together with Laurent from N2WS. He's also an expert for more than 10 years in IT, and he'll talk about the N2WS part later on. So first, I'm going to go quickly over the agenda. So first, we'll go over why Veeam and who is Veeam for those who don't know us yet. And then on-premises to AWS by leveraging a VTL. Then Laurent will talk about the whole N2WS Backup and Recovery part. And we'll talk a little bit about VMware Cloud and AWS. And finally, about object storage integration within Veeam by leveraging the cloud tier and cloud mobility. And we'll have a wrap-up, of course, at the end. So why Veeam or who is Veeam? For those who don't know Veeam, Veeam is a company which was started around 10, 11, maybe 12 years ago. And we've been growing at a steady rate. So as you can see from the chart, in 2012, we had around 175 million in bookings, and we actually are going for the 1 billion. We went for the 1 billion next year, and we're the next billion company. So we have around 74% customers of the Fortune 500, and we're growing at a rate of around 4,000 customers a month. So just to give you some numbers, again, I know it's marketing and it's not really engineering, but it's interesting to know. Now, if you want to know more information, we're also an industry leader according to IDC and to OVM. So these are from 2017. The ones from 2018 haven't been released yet, but they will be released soon, and then we can update the slides as well. Now, what's important is that Veeam has 3 key founding principles. Now, initially, we were founded in 2016. Wow, my next slide is going crazy on there. Anyway, we're built for the virtual world. And what we mean with that is when we came to the market, VMware was a big thing. Everybody was installing VMware and was virtualizing, and the need for backup was there. A lot of customers, they were using their old legacy solution, and they were using agents within a virtual machine, which didn't make sense because you were virtualizing to save resources just to waste them by installing agents, which would use everything you had. And for that, we came with a virtual solution, which we later on extended onto physical and, of course, cloud, such as AWS. So we have a partner first ID. That means that you cannot buy directly from us. So if you are looking at buying Veeam, you'll have to work through one of our partners. We have a lot of partners in Belgium. Just come to the booth later on, and I can present with who you want to work. And we used to have a motto, and we still have it, and that's it just works. A lot of our customers, or even if you do a trial, you'll notice when you install it, we'll make it easy. We don't have like 50,000 buttons, just like when you're trying to, take care of an airplane or something. No, it's just straightforward. This is what you need. This is what you want. Are you going to work with AWS? Are you going to work with your VMware infrastructure? Are you going to migrate from VMware to AWS with Veeam? It will be straightforward. So again, easy to use. We have granular recoverability options. We're scalable and we're scheduled. So very simple. We're reliable. What I mean by that is we have something called a portable data format. And that's often overseen with multiple clouds. So maybe you're in multiple AWS regions, and AWS has nice ways of moving data. But sometimes you want to, get the data back onto on-premises, take it home with you, do some development, and then later on push it back. We give the opportunity to do that as well. So we're very reliable, we're flexible. You can do whatever you want with Veeam by leveraging our solutions. Now, all of this combined is what we call the Veeam Availability Platform. Now, the platform is focused on multiple points, which is the outer circle. You have the private clouds, VMware or Hyper-V, for example, managed clouds, where you work with a partner, and of course, public cloud. We're all here for AWS in the end. And then we have some other things as well, software as a service, edge and Internet of Things, and of course, still the physical aspect. And in the middle, you can see every of the products that we have that can be leveraged for using this. So I'm going to focus, of course, on the public cloud aspect and going from private to public cloud. So how can you do it? Well, there are multiple ways. And before we had the recently released update 4 for Veeam Backup Application, we leveraged a virtual tape library to send data from on-premises, from VMware Hyper-V, for example, or even a physical server into AWS. The way it worked was you had your own data center and you had your AWS Cloud with a specific region, and there was a virtual tape library running on-premises and in there in AWS, and the data would be sent over and it would be stored within Amazon S3 or Amazon Glacier. Now that works very well, so it's integrated with Veeam Backup Replication, and it looks like it's a tape repository, even though it's of course a physical device or a virtual device. And the tape backups were being sent as a, to S3 storage as a backup file. And later on, if you want to save cost, you could save and move it to Glacier for long-term archiving. Now, this works very well. However, about a year, 1.5 years ago, we worked together and we did some market research and we were looking at how the AWS growth and change was going, and we noticed that there was need for a backup within AWS. Now, we were looking whether we were going to write something ourselves or if we were going to work together, and this is how Veeam worked together or came to the conclusion that we should work together with N2W. And with this, I'm going to introduce Laurent, who's going to deep dive a little bit about the N2W part. So please, warm welcome for Laurent.
Okay, thank you, Niels. So, good morning, everybody. How is it going today? Okay. Okay, thanks. I know it's a bit a gray day. It's not ideal. It's the first session today, but I hope you'll find it interesting, and I'm going to try to make you participate a little bit. So, first of all, my name is Laurent. I'm a system engineer at Veeam N2WS. And originally, N2WS is a startup that's been acquired by Veeam. That was last year in January. And we specialize in AWS Backup Recovery and Disaster Recovery. Now, before I get started, I wanted to ask you a question. Who, in this room is already in AWS or using AWS? Can you raise your hand? Oh, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Still, AWS still has a bit of work to do, but it's not bad. And among you, I wanted to check if any of you ever had to deal with a threat, such as, let's say, a ransomware or hardware failure. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Well, it looks like a lot of you have been lucky so far. Well, today I want to discuss about, the obviously backup and recovery, and review, the fact that it's not because you're in the cloud that you are obviously fully protected. Okay. So let's start with why AWS. Why do we concentrate, or we started, with backup and recovery in AWS? Well, AWS is probably one of the most, I would say, secured cloud on the market, compliant. They've been with us since 2006. They provide, a lot of security layers. They are also compliant with GDPR. And because today we're here to talk about the public sector, well, it's actually compliant, for public sector, even the financial sector. Just to give you an example, the UK government is one of our customers. The NASA as well, some universities. So basically, it's not only a private company, that use the public cloud nowadays, but it's also governmental organization, public sector. So what I want to do today is discuss about our applications, in the next 10 minutes or 10, 15 minutes, and about backup and disaster recovery in AWS Cloud. Okay, so first of all, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about, the threats, that you can have, when you're in the cloud. In fact, you're going to see that when you work in the cloud, you're going to have the same threat as working on premises, okay? Just to give you an example, the first one that comes to my mind is human error, okay? Somebody could just, delete, for example, by mistake, an EC2 instance, okay, a virtual machine in AWS. You're going to find as well the risk of ransomware, viruses, because some of your machines will be connected to the internet, okay? Maybe something very, very rare, but we've seen it before, is a region, being down. Okay, it's extremely rare, fortunately for us, but that can happen. For example, last year in 2017, 2 years ago, in 2017, there was the region US East that was down, for 5 hours. And if, you have your whole production environment in such a region, well, there's nothing you can do apart from sitting and praying for the region to come back online as soon as possible. So wouldn't it be great if you could recover in another region or maybe in another account, if something happens? Well, this is exactly what we provide with our application. But first of all, what do you get in AWS, okay, when it comes to security or what you can do around security? Obviously, you probably have heard about security groups, which are like firewall rules, for your machines. You've heard about, identity access management, okay, etc., multi-form factor authentication. So these are certain security layers that you're going to find in AWS. But you also find the possibility to create snapshots, especially EBS snapshots, okay, to preserve your data, snapshot of your volumes on EC2 instances, some APIs and command line. Obviously, you can store in AWS. You can use also Lambda scripting, and you have a different region and different availability zone, okay? That's great, but that's not enough. And this is where we come in with Veeam N2WS. We're going to add an extra layer of security for you to simplify the way you're going to preserve your data in AWS. And I would say the ultimate security layer when everything has failed, like your antivirus, your firewall, is obviously backup and recovery. So what we bring to you is, first of all, a simple UI, okay, with our application that you'll be able to use to monitor and basically protect and back up all your environments in all your AWS accounts, okay? We're bringing you also application consistency, application-aware backup. So if you have databases running on EC2 instances, okay, you'll be able to keep them consistent. Obviously, auditing, reporting, alerting, because there's no point doing backup if you cannot prove it. And nowadays, especially with GDPR in mind, one day you may have an audit, and you need to prove that you're backing up, okay, in AWS. We bring you some granularity, especially when it comes to EC2 instances, volume recovery, file level recovery, something that you cannot do, directly from simple snapshots. And the icing on the cake, if I can speak like that, is the capability of backing up your VPC, your network, okay? And also archiving to S3, okay? The possibility to keep your backups, for long term, at obviously a reduced cost than just the cost of snapshots. So that's what we bring to you. So if I had to summarize our products, in fact, what we bring is just a giant recovery button, okay? Why? Because, yes, of course, you can create snapshots in AWS. You can find tools as well to automate the snapshot creation. But can you really recover? Have you ever tried to recover from a snapshot, like an EBS snapshot? Can you just right-click on an EBS snapshot and select Recover EC2 instance? No, you can't. So this is why we're here. But in order to be able to recover, obviously, you need to have a certain system in place. So what we bring is, first of all, automated policy and schedule. You can define what you want to back up and how you want to back it up. So you can create, with our application, backup schedules. You can back up, by the day, week, month, hour, even down to the minute if you wanted to. I know it sounds crazy, but it is possible because we leverage the snapshot capability of AWS, okay? But so creating snapshots, takes seconds, it's pretty fast. But we do more than just creating snapshot. Of course, we create proper, viable backup sessions and restore point in time, okay? So you can also restore. But how are you going to restore? Well, you can restore locally in the original region where the source is located, like the region where you have your EC2 instances, but also cross-region and cross-account. Cross-region, of course, just, in case a region is down, you have the possibility to restore into another region, but also cross-account. And why cross-account? Because we've seen in the past companies going out of business after losing an AWS account, okay? So it's important to be able to, I would say, to protect yourself against an account being compromised or hacked in any way. And finally, what we bring as well in terms of recovery is the possibility, or backup and recovery, I would say, the possibility to back up your infrastructure. Because we know at Veeam and N2WS that not only the data is important, it's also the capability to recover very quickly, but to recover in exactly the same network or the same VPC as you were using originally. So we're giving you the unique possibility to back up your VPC and clone them into another region or another account, okay? And you can do that in a few seconds, like clone a VPC, for example, in a few seconds, just before recovering your instances, your RDS database, your DynamoDB tables, and we also support Redshift. So that's what we bring to you. Now, good news as well, we can help you to lower your AWS storage bills. Well, as you know, snapshots obviously have a cost. And if you have to retain your data for a long term for compliances, for example, lawyers have to keep data for 7 years, you probably don't want to keep this data for 7 years as snapshots. So we're giving you the unique possibility to actually do a sort of deduplication on your snapshot, transform this snapshot into objects that you're going to store in an S3 bucket, okay, for the long run. And you can apply the retention period that you want to this S3 bucket. And obviously, all these backups that you're going to copy to S3 are incremental. Like your snapshots are incremental, the archiving to S3 is also incremental. We're also bringing you the possibility to start and stop your instances, your RDS on schedules to reduce your AWS bill. So that's actually one of our latest features at Veeam and N2WS, the capability to actually schedule when you want to turn on and off your RDS or EC2 instances. And it's important because according to a Gartner report, in 2019, about $14 billion will be spent in the public cloud on idle resources. Means a computer that is left there doing nothing, okay? So having the capability of scheduling when you want to start and stop non-essential servers, like your developers' servers, for example, is very important. And you're going to notice at the end, you'll have the possibility to dramatically reduce your AWS bill, every month. So that's very important. And we'll give you also the possibility, via just one click of a button, to either start your servers or group of servers or stop them. Okay? So it's either scheduling or manual, whenever it suits you. We also provide database backup. In fact, what we call application-aware backup. Because it will be a shame to be able to recover very quickly. And with our product, you can recover, for example, an EC2 instance in an average 30 seconds. It will be a shame to be able to recover in 30 seconds and having a database on your EC2 instance or your volume doing a consistency check, for half an hour or an hour, okay? So basically, we support, most of common databases, backup, such as MS SQL, MongoDB, Postgres, Oracle, Exchange, Active Directory, and in a consistent manner. The way we do that, it's, if you are a little bit technical, it's by talking to a small service that you find on Windows instances, for example, called VSS, or Volume Shadow Copy, that set up, here's the database and enables you to basically grab the transactions that are still in the RAM when you're doing a backup of your database when the system is online, and commit that to the volume, and then we'll take an application consistent snapshot, as we call it, in AWS terms. Now, if you're using NoSQL, well, absolutely no problem. We support, for example, DynamoDB, okay, backup and recovery in AWS, but also standard databases, NoSQL databases such as Cassandra and MongoDB. Now, what is interesting as well is the fact that, of course, when Veeam acquired N2WS and we became Veeam N2WS, we decided to integrate our technology. So now we're giving you the possibility to have just one console to do on-prem backup and also AWS backup. And the way it works is if you work in, for example, AWS and you have EC2 instances, when you're copying your snapshots into an S3 bucket, basically the data will be stored as object in your S3 bucket in a VBK format, which is a Veeam original format. So Veeam Availability Suite format. And then we can, if you use, for example, Veeam Availability Suite, you'll be able to then grab this data in your S3 bucket and export your backups back on-premise or recover on-premise or even recover into another cloud. So basically, we actually created a sort of a bridge between private clouds and public cloud. So to summarize, N2WS is a simple-to-use application and UI for all your backups in AWS, in all your accounts. You can also, with it, recover very fast your EC2 instances, RDS, 30 seconds average, and you can do that in another region or another account. We also provide archiving into S3 in VBK format to integrate with our mother company, Veeam products. We also provide VPC backup and recovery for your infrastructure. So that's it for me. I hope that was interesting, and I'm going to leave the rest to my colleague, Niels. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Laurent. So, really great explanation on how N2WS works and how we've been able to integrate with them together with of course, our Veeam Backup Application Suite. Now, Veeam does a lot more on AWS than just integrating with N2WS. One of those things is the leverage of data availability for VMware Cloud and AWS. Is anybody already using VMware Cloud and AWS? The light is not helping, but maybe one or two. Maybe some of you are looking at it. And it's important to understand is that, well, the VMware Cloud on AWS can be backed up with Veeam. Now, you may have VMware on premises, and you may consider moving everything to AWS. There are two options. So either you take it and you just, you leave it as it is on premises, and you start from scratch in AWS, and you do a proper migration with all your services. Or, and this is what, of course, VMware is aiming for, is that you buy VMware Cloud in AWS regions, and then you migrate over there. Now, you need a backup as well, of course, and this is where we come in place, of course, where you can actually back up the data as well. So if you're looking at this, know that if you're on your data center or you're in your global infrastructure within AWS, Veeam got your back. We can back up and send data anywhere. So why would you do this? Well, first of all, if you're already a Veeam customer and you're using Veeam on premises, the first thing is, of course, familiarity. You'll know the console, one single point of view, very simple to use. Flexible, you can do backup and replication, so you can do either backups and then use the replication feature to move from on-premises into AWS and shut down your own data center. It's a trusted platform. We're leveraging the knowledge or the technology by vSphere. I should add AWS technologies as well, and of course our Veeam technologies. And again, it just works. It's not us who said it, it's our customers who have been saying this for years. And it also allows you to achieve what we call the 3-2-1 rule. Now, the 3-2-1 rule means that you have 3 different copies of your data. One is your production environment, one is your first copy, and the last one is one offsite. Now, that can be either tape, but nobody likes tape anymore, so we offer cloud as an option. An S3 bucket or anything in AWS, if you want to use a virtual appliance, an EC2 instance, and you want to save your data on there, everything is supported. And as Laurent already said is, why do you need availability? While AWS is extremely amazing in uptime, just sometimes a region can go down. Even if it's just for a few minutes, it can have a high impact on your company. So if you want to continue your business and everything, then this allows you to transfer data from one region to the other region by leveraging Veeam or combining it with the N2WS solution. So where can you find us? Well, we're on the VMware Cloud Marketplace, not on the AWS Marketplace, but on the VMware Cloud Marketplace. And then you can go over to a really easy interface where you deploy it, and it will be up and running within, well, depending on how fast you can click, within 5 minutes. Now, at the start of the session, I spoke about how Veeam worked with AWS before we did anything with N2WS and before we actually explored the market in a better way, which was using a virtual tape library to send backups offsite. Which, if you think about it, while it works, it doesn't really make much sense, right? Because you're going to make a backup of your virtual infrastructure in your on-premises location, then store it in a backup format on a virtual tape, and then you're going to send it into a cloud, which is an object storage. So it took us a while, but finally we realized we're doing something wrong. And therefore, we created something called capacity tier. The initial code name for it was infinite tier because you would have unlimited amount of storage, which I like a little bit more. And the idea is that actually you can integrate Veeam Backup Replication with object storage. So in the AWS Cloud, you can use Amazon S3, and of course, Veeam capacity tier, which is a layer on top of the Amazon S3 layer. Now, this allows you actually to send data onto object storage. The way it works is a Veeam backup file exists out of two things. You have your metadata and then, of course, your actual data. Now, the way we send the data over to the S3 bucket is in the simple way, we will transfer all the data over there. The moment you say, okay, my data is a month old, I will move it over there. The animation will take care of it and will move the data over time there for you. Now, what this does is, in the end, you'll notice that on your on-premises location, you have what we call a dehydrated Veeam backup file, which contains the metadata. Now, you may wonder, why do you still have this? Because this allows us to quickly recover what you need. And the advantage here is because we use a 1 megabyte block size, is that if you want to recover a file which is less than 1 megabyte or around 1 megabyte, you only pay 1 megabyte of data transfer, which means in the Amazon terms that it's one API call, and you're paying around 0.0003 cents to restore 1 megabyte of data. Now, this also allows us to do instant VM recovery, meaning that if your data center goes down, you can actually power on those virtual machines within 2-3 minutes in any location. What we also do is we transfer the metadata also to the S3 bucket. So in case your data center burns down, you know, Murphy is having an amazing day, then you can just migrate into Amazon without any issues. Now, when does the data get moved? It happens during your operational windows. Every 4 hours, we'll look if there's new data and we'll transfer it over there. Now, you can control this, but by default, we'll transfer it every 4 hours. And what will happen is, once the backup is over there, we will seal the backup, making sure you cannot modify it through external needs. So it's also secure, and you can be sure that when you have to recover from it, you can actually recover. Now, animation goes a bit wrong here, but let's read from the bottom to the top. The way it works is, if you want to know how much this is going to cost you, we have a calculator. The slides will be presented later on, and this can also be found on the Veeam website. And we leverage the same technology as Microsoft does with ArrayFS. And it allows you actually to, have an idea how much you're going to use in an object storage. Now, what we do as well is we are using block sizes, and this is what you can set up on premises. So you can configure local target with different block sizes, going from 4 megabytes to as small as 256 kilobytes. However, we advise to use backups in 1 megabyte block sizes, and then you can send it to the object storage also in 1 megabyte block size. The advantage is, the smaller the block size, the better it is, because the bigger it is, the more it will cost. Now, the important part of the Veeam Cloud Mobility for AWS is any backup created with Veeam or N2WS can be set or put into an Amazon EC2 instance. So if you have virtual backups from your VMware Hyper-V infrastructure and you want to move them to Amazon EC2, no problem. We've got something called Direct Restore to AWS. The name says it for itself. Restore that machine into AWS and power it on. You can do it for physical backups for your Veeam agents for Windows and Linux as well, and we can even do it with this hypervisor called Nutanix. So, wrapping things up and going to the next steps, what we have is we have cloud backup and disaster recovery in one interface. We have Veeam Backup Replication with the integration of Veeam's N2WS, and you have one interface to take care of everything. We can protect infrastructure as a service and software as a service as well from the same console. And then finally, cloud data protection. As Laura has said it, cross-cloud recovery and cross-cloud backup are a hot thing where you can actually back up from one AWS region to the other AWS region, or even do disaster recovery from east to west, or from central to wherever you want. I don't know how many regions there are right now in AWS, but they're growing like crazy, and they're adding a region probably every month right now. So a lot of options are available for you. And so if we look at the final picture, how it looks is we are everywhere. We can do AWS. We're working with VMware and Hyper-V. We've of course got our physical backups for Windows, Linux, etc. We're also doing Office 365. A lot of options in there. So if you want to know more about every little bit of detail, or you see like a specific name on there, and you want to know more about how we're doing it, we have a booth here together with N2W, so you can actually come to us, chat with us, have a coffee, and maybe we can talk and have a meeting later on. So with that, I thank you for your attention. I wish you a very pleasant day at this amazing event. And if there are any more questions, we're open for questions. Thank you.